In the months after the war, there was a small inn near Merano, Italy. On the ground floor, fleeing SS officers hid in silence. Men who had run extermination camps. Men who had signed the orders that fed the gas chambers. Directly above them, separated by a few inches of wooden floorboard, Holocaust survivors huddled on the second floor. Neither group knew the other was there. Victims and executioners, sleeping under the same roof, hiding from the same Allied patrols. That inn was one stop on a route that moved 10,000 war criminals to new lives in South America. The network that built it has a name, and the truth behind that name is worse than the legend. For decades, it has been called Odessa, a shadowy, hyper-organized conspiracy run by former SS leadership. In all likelihood, it never existed. The reality is far more disturbing. The real escape network was not run by some brilliant SS mastermind in a secret bunker. It was run by priests, by overwhelmed humanitarian workers, and by the government of the United States. In the spring of 1945, the Reich collapsed. Arrest warrants went out across Europe, and the men who had built the machinery of the Holocaust did the only thing left to them. They ran. They stripped off their black uniforms, put on stolen civilian clothes, and started climbing. The Brenner Pass, a grueling, freezing trek through the Dolomites from Austria into Italy. Men who had spent a decade riding in chauffeur-driven Mercedes now stumbled over loose mountain gravel in the dark, flinching at every distant engine sound echoing through the valleys. Most of them carried one final contingency in a coat pocket, a modified Mauser cartridge case, hollowed out with a glass ampule of cyanide sealed inside. If a partisan rounded the corner, you did not face the noose, you bit down on the glass. Surviving the Alps was only the first obstacle. Once in Italy, they were still trapped on the continent. They needed papers, and the source of those papers remains one of the war's ugliest footnotes. The International Committee of the Red Cross, the organization whose entire mission is protecting the vulnerable, was issuing emergency travel documents out of Rome and Genoa. The 10.100 laissez-passer, a stiff, fibrous piece of paper, roughly the size of a postcard, with a raised ICRC stamp pressed into the surface. It was designed for stateless refugees, people displaced by the very war these men had waged. The fugitives walked in, sat across from overwhelmed aid workers, and lied. Adolf Eichmann, the man who architected the logistics of the Holocaust, gave the name Ricardo Clement and walked out with a valid travel document. Mengele did the same. Roughly 120,000 others followed. The real bottleneck was not paperwork. It was the port of Genoa. Genoa was crawling with people who wanted these men dead. Jewish vengeance squads, the Nakam, prowled the docks, scanning the face of every man boarding a ship. If they recognized you, there was no trial. There was an alley, and a body dropped into the harbor. Most of them made it through. Eichmann boarded the Giovanni Sea, bound for Buenos Aires. As he crept along the deck, head down, terrified, he saw something that stunned him. Former SS colleagues leaning casually against the railings, laughing, smoking cigarettes, calling each other by their real names. Some had fled in abject terror. Others treated the crossing like a cruise. They reached Argentina. Perón welcomed them. They received factory jobs, quiet lives, new identities. But the escape did not end the fear. It only changed its shape. Josef Mengele, the angel of death, became so consumed by the dread that Israeli hunters would find him that he developed a compulsive tic. Chewing on the ends of his own mustache, he swallowed so much hair over the months that a massive, solid hairball formed in his intestines and nearly killed him. The man who played God with genetics in Auschwitz was almost destroyed by his own body turning against him. Eichmann evaded the world's greatest intelligence agencies for a full decade. He was not caught by a spy satellite or a decoded transmission. He was caught because his teenage son kept the family name and started dating a girl in Buenos Aires whose father happened to be a blind Holocaust survivor. The old man heard the name Eichmann, and he made one phone call. The United States did not merely fail to stop the rat lines, it used them. Klaus Barbie, the butcher of Lyon, was hired by American intelligence as an anti-communist asset. When France demanded he face trial for torturing members of the resistance, the CIA did not hand him over. They personally smuggled him to Bolivia through the very same rat lines they were supposed to be dismantling. 10,000 men escaped, not because of criminal genius, because a priest stamped a form. A bureaucrat did not ask questions, and a superpower decided that yesterday's monsters were today's assets.